Hey, Pussnet, new little video. On this one, we're going to be talking about infectious disease again, but this one is a prevention. It's going to be a little bit backwards from. It's not really the the straight follow up from my other videos, but it was a special request because somebody is going for a big trip, so I thought that I would do the video to help answer a few questions that I was asked. So the category we'll be talking about is diet, clothes, mouth care, and body hygiene. And diet will be surprising for some people over here, but it's very important because especially people with disease like diabetes and immune compromise, like people with history of cancer, so stuff like that. Diet is very important because that's gonna, if your immune system, especially if you're in a time of disaster and stress, your immune system will be down, so you need to boost it up with some of the food and make sure that you have. So here's a few things about the food. Avoid preparing in place that you can, so don't contaminate your food basically, and keep it away from place that could be contaminated from other people. And your food, you want it to be high energy, you want it lightweight, easy to prepare, tasty and varied, because again, if you're if you don't eat it, then you won't have the energy that comes with it. Not too expensive, easy store, and nutritional balance. That's especially the important part that I wanted to talk about. So for people that have like disease that affect their immune system, like again like diabetes and stuff, and we talked a little bit in the past videos about those high-risk people, I would even consider it going to a nutritionist or a naturopath before a disaster strike, to make sure that in their prep, you know, because those people, they cannot just live on the MRE, because regular people, even MRE, will have a hard impact on them. But it's very even more important for the people that have already an immune system that is a little bit weak, that they need to maybe up it up with a little bit some balance on mineral supplements and things like that. So very important to consider that before disaster strikes. Another thing that you need to think is, before we talk about the other ones, is how much resource do you have. And the reason for that is that if you're in the forest and you have water, like, you know, because there's a stream beside where you are, that you'll be a little bit different than when I used to do like expedition, and you're higher up in a mountain, there's no water. Or even here, you know, during the winter and stuff, when you take like so much fuel to change the snow or the ice into water, and just for that you need like to drink it. It's a kind of consideration to ask, do you have the resource to recycle with water or no water? Because that way the decision that you're going to do of how you're going to keep your personal hygiene will be important. If you use water, little points to think about: recycle your gray water, so that way it can be used for different things. Environment, the temperature, because again, if you're in a cold climate or something, then that water will be a little bit colder, and so it's you know, you can have like frosting. If you're -30 and doing a sponge bath, then you could have like some damage from the water itself. And container to use with the water, because again, if you're going to clean yourself as sponge bath, because that water is going to be dirty, you don't want to use the same water that you're going to be drinking out of. And no water usually require like special product, and it's a little bit less comfortable because we're used to take like showers and things like that, and so it's a little bit different. And also the clothes that you're going to use if you don't use water, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And the weight, because obviously you'll have to carry a little bit more products and things like that, so it may have a little bit of weight into your initial carry. General principle for the cleaning: be disciplined about applying a routine. When we're like going hiking and things like that, you're gonna be playing more with dirt and more dirty, and you'll be so it's a little bit more important to apply a very strict routine versus, you know, when we come back from just the city and things like that, we're a little bit more clean and air quote. But if we don't apply as strictly as the discipline, then it's a little bit more forgiven. But in those kind of situation where you have like surrounded by flood water and things like that, it's a little bit less forgiving. If you're in a group, make sure that the chain is not broken, meaning that if you're cleaning yourself and you're super strict and you're following good discipline, but the other person beside you doesn't, and he's the one cooking and things like that, then the chain is broken, and basically all the nasty that he carries on his hands or whatever can be transmitted into the group. So make sure that the whole group is following the discipline. If you have anyone that is sick, isolate them or quarantine them. So keep them away from plates, food, or anything like that. So that way, I guess, the chain is not. Don't try not to share. So if in your bug out bag or anything, try to have like different plates for different people, and again, so that you don't share like toothbrush or things like that. So that way that you make sure that the chain of cleanness is not broken. And hand washing, and hand washing before you eat, hand washing after you eat, hand washing and everything. That was probably one of the biggest one that you can really protect. And an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So that's why it's very important to do a lot of prevention, because that way you don't have to use a lot of your resource for that kind of stuff. So the clothes, if you're gonna be like, if you prepare a bug out bag and stuff, try to have some clothes dedicated for camp. When I go hiking and things like that, I always have clothes that are only for the camp. And the reason for that is that during the day, like you sweat and you have a lot of clothes that have like that dirt on him or something, or especially if it's raining and everything is wet. So that way, if you have clothes dedicated for camp first, you're going to be more comfortable with them. And second, also, they won't be as dirty as the ones that you use on the hike. So there's less chance, because when you're at camp, that's where you're going to eat, cook, and do things like that. So try to have like, dedicated clothes for camp, and no matter what happens, keep them in. Usually I try not to keep them in a dry bag, and they're very well identified to their eyes. The specialized clothes that I talk about here, if you look in the higher end things like Patagonia or North Face, where they have like clothes especially for long expeditions. So for example, when I was in Aconcagua, you're up in the mountain for 2 weeks, and you have like no way, like when we were at Camp 2, we would have to melt every drop of water that we wanted to drink, and you have to drink so much because you're higher up, and just to do it. And so it consumes so much fuel and stuff that you don't have time to, and you don't want to use any resource. You have plenty of time, because basically we spend like a whole day just drinking water and melting snow for the next day. But you don't want to start cleaning your clothes and stuff. And so it's there's some clothes that have like low antimicrobial in it, but I would go, if you're gonna go that route, again, go with the big company like Patagonia, North Face, or other specialized like that. And the reason that I would do that is because there's some research out there that some of the silvers or products that are put as antimicrobial clothes, and the cheaper part, can actually be absorbed to your skin. But if you look on the Patagonia page and stuff, the molecule they use and things that they use are not, they cannot go through your skins and stuff. So you pay a little bit more, but they're worth their weight in gold, like any clothes that usually I buy, especially for your base layer. Because what happens with those ones is that first, they don't have the smell and everything, and again, you don't have to clean them as often. Dirty clothes can be a reservoir. So imagine that if like you're cleaning your hands and you're really using a good discipline, but your jacket is full of muds and stuff, and you smear your hand on this wall. Now that mud can have all the stuff, so your dirty clothes can have a reservoir. Again, another case for having dedicated clothes for the camp. And the most important layer that you have close to you is your base layer. So especially like underwears and stuff, try to change those as possible. So when I was going in Aconcagua, we were 2 weeks on the mountain, so every 2 days I was trying to change underwear. And so yeah, so I had a few pair of underwears at least to change that. And the other clothes on the other side that had like, it's not as important, as just because I was kind of protected a little bit. So it's a little bit the same way as dressings that we talked in the past, like with dressings and stuff like that, is that it's more, the important thing is what touch your skin, not so much what's on the outside. So we'll stop here for part 1, and then we'll come back for part 2.